mystery and horror. The air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. He's alive! He's alive!
Well, hello, all you monster fiends, and thank you for joining us for another deep dive factoid-filled episode exploring Hollywood's most famous monsters. I am your mistress of ceremonies, Sam, and I am joined, as always, by Dan from Bleeding Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
I love milk.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
That's gonna haunt me till the day I die.
Well, fucking well if you keep bringing it up.
But I do. I love milk.
Me too.
Hi.
Hi! Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Monsters Up North, a podcast. This week, we're going all Aussie on you. Throw another shrimp on the barbie. And that's not a knife.
This is a knife.
That saying has a whole new meaning now.
Yep.
Whole new meaning. I always took the Simpsons reference. It's not a knife. This is a knife. I think you find
Another
that's a spoon,
paycheck
mate.
for you, Paul.
I think you'll find that's a spoon, mate. Oh, I see you've played knifey spoony before there. Sorry, my Australian accent. I actually have family who my family all moved to Australia. So sorry. Apologies in advance. Not to bring the laughter down a bit, but I just wanted to mention because as of recording, it has just been announced that the horror icon herself, Shelley Duvall, has passed away. 76? 75, 76? You think I'd be a bit more prepared? I was more interested in her actual love life than her date. 75. 75. Really, really sad. I was talking to someone earlier at work about her, and I really hope she found peace.
Yeah.
I really hope in whatever way that was to her, she found peace and she enjoyed the remaining years of her life. Because we all know from the press and Dr. Phil that she didn't have it easy. But did you know, here's an interesting thing I read today. She was married to Paul Simon. Simon and Garfunkel.
But so was
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did he meet her?
How the hell did him and Carrie Fisher and
Through Shelley Duvall. Shelley introduced her friend Carrie to her husband Paul, and Carrie did what Elizabeth Taylor did to her parents.
stole Paul?
Yes.
Ooh. And then Paul went on to marry Chevy Chase and do You Can Call Me Out. Which is, by the way, one of my top 5 favorite songs.
Really?
I love it. It just makes me happy. Like, it's a song that when it comes on, when I was a kid, I used to love that video of him and Chevy doing the dance and the saxophone and the walking up backwards and forwards. So I can safely say I've met one half of that group. I met Chevy Chase. So I'm like,
oh my god,
got in there.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I knew he was going to be a miserable bastard, and he lived up to every single second of my expectation, and I was so happy. I was so happy.
I was going to say something. Oh yeah, Simon and Garfunkel were like the staple of music in my house because my mother loves them, and I hated every second. Bridge over troubled water. Blah, blah. I love them now. I literally play Simon and Garfunkel while I am cooking, and my mum rang us one time and she went, "What is that I hear?" And I was like, I don't know what you mean.
Well, I can say there's 2 songs. Obviously, The Sound of Silence is massive because Disturbed brought it back, and Disturbed did a bloody good version of it.
Bloody good job.
But The Boxer's probably up there for me. I love The Boxer, and I love Scarborough Fair as well. So
I know it's not Simon and Garfunkel, it's more Paul Simon because my mum loves Paul Simon, but I love Cecilia.
I just makes me think of Madness.
Really?
Oh. Because they did the cover, didn't they? Madness did the cover, Cecilia.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, Cecilia
Probably
as well.
good that you did forget about it.
So yeah, I just wanted to make mention of, because obviously she is, for all she is huge in the horror world, it's not just what she was famous for. We were just talking before, she was Olive Oil in Popeye. She was, and her big part was obviously in Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Wendy Torrance.
Thank you. I completely forgot what her name was there. I was just going to call her Mrs. Torrance. So rest in absolute peace, Shelley Duvall, legend. So after that sincere moment, we are going to get in to the massacre that is Wolf's Creek. But before I do that, I'm going to give the disclaimer out.
Yeah.
Sure. Everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us on our Facebook pages, their Discord, or the comments section, where we can have an open discussion. But what we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong. We can all agree to disagree in horror. So let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behavior out of nerdism.
Don't be a dick.
Oh, you go that way.
Yes.
Over there. God, this is quite a small intro, to be honest with you. So, Wolf's Creek is the 2005 Australian horror film written, co-produced and directed by Glenn MacLean, starring John Jarratt, Nathan Phillips, Cassandra McGrath, and Kirsty Morrissey. Hopefully I've said that right. How can you be found when no one knows you're missing? The thrill is in the hunt. As Monsters Up North brings you Wolf's Creek. That was 2 taglines in one.
Yeah.
Because there's not a great deal I could go off with on the intro without just going, well, this film is about...
Yeah. It's about a meteor hole.
Don't say that. You'll confuse us.
Well, that's what the original... When you see all the helicopter shots, because obviously drones weren't readily available in 2005 to the extent that they use them in movie making now. It was helicopter shots that they used, and the helicopter shot of the meteor crate, which is actually called Wolf Creek, but it has an E on it, whereas the movie doesn't have an E at the end of Wolf. So it is actually the second biggest meteor preservation site. First one is in Arizona.
Yeah.
And the Aboriginal name for the crater. Now, apologies to anybody if I butcher this. Just know that I am trying. I'm not trying to be rude. The name is Kandi Malal.
Right.
In Aboriginal. Kandi, Kandi.
Oh.
And it's basically the second most preserved site, basically, of meteor impact on Earth. So I just thought that was really interesting, because I was like, you can tell it's a meteor hit. You can see it blatantly as, but for it to be as preserved and looked after as it is, as like a land, like a place people can go to.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's so far away from anything, like you have to go hours off the road to find this thing.
Yeah.
So
it's something. It's something. It's I don't know what's best to do first. Should we just dive into the movie and just pick up as we go along?
We can do. I mean, what I will preface this as saying is that it's classed as, now last week we were talking about exploitation films with Basket Case. This one is classed as an Ozploitation, an Australian exploitation.
Oh, so they call it that name.
Exploitation film, which I thought was brilliant, because it does have the moniker as being Australia's highest grossing R-rated movie ever on domestic box office in Australia. Nothing has beaten it.
Oh, on my initial watch, because I watched it for the first time on Tuesday, and on my initial watch, I went, not a great deal happened.
It
That's my
takes a
initial,
while.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my initial feeling. It's like, not a great deal happened. I don't particularly care about some of these people. Oh, but I do care about him. I actually felt very hard for the male figure in this. I thought he was fucking
Ben.
fun. I thought he was fantastic. I genuinely cared about him.
Mm.
And I thought it was Karev at first.
Yeah.
When I looked at it, oh my God, is this why she picked it?
It's not. No, it's not Justin Chambers. It's not Alex Carrera. This was Nathan Phillips, and
Yeah.
Nathan is now the common denominator between the three teenagers or early 20s. I don't know, backpackers, is that they've all been in and had characters in Neighbours. Every single one of them.
Oh.
They're all Australian and they've all had characters in Neighbours. The only one that was in Home and Away was I can't, apologies because her name is
Kesty
yeah.
Morassi.
Kesty, she was also in Home and Away, but Nathaniel was actually also in something that I knew in Nathan. I kept thinking, I know his face from something. I know it from something else, like Snakes on a Plane. He's the main guy in Snakes on a Plane with Samuel L. Jackson.
It has been a fucking day since I have seen that film.
Yeah. Get these fucking snakes off this motherfucking plane.
It's just genius. It's just genius. Yeah, so my initial thoughts were not a great deal happened there. But as I was talking it out with my husband in the car, I realized, oh, actually, a great deal happened. A lot of plot point, a lot of storytelling to make me actually interested. So when it did come down to the what we would deem as the horror aspect of it, it was fucking brutal. But how do I feel? Because the guy who's doing it is super duper friendly. I don't know how I feel about this. And then I was like, okay, I can't wait for this episode to hash all this out.
Yeah, I mean that they were very, very clever with the casting because the way that they got Ben as the figurehead, even though he was the browbeaten one out of the three of them because he was just going along with what the other two wanted because he was just looking for an experience. Like he just wanted to enjoy
life.
Yeah, I mean they slept on beaches. The exposition is about an hour long of how these three live their lives or how they are living their lives. It's about an hour of them showing them getting a car and wanting to travel Australia. And anyone who isn't familiar is that Australia is this percentage is very, very wrong when I say this, but it's about 80% nothing. Like when I'm saying nothing, I mean dust, desert, bush, scrubland. It's the territories themselves. Like one farmer can own hundreds of thousands of acres and never stepped on half of it. Like it's insane. I mean, Rob's best friend Henry, him and his wife Ellie, they work on a station out in Australia and they have horses and they will have a farm out there, but they're responsible for hundreds of thousands of acres and they never have to farm half of it because it's miles and miles and miles.
We've been walking for miles. What is that off? IT crowd. We've been walking for fucking miles. I have my family. I don't know how it started, but at a certain age, they just up sticks and fuck off to Australia. But dare say about 60-70% of my family are there now, spread out all across Australia. The youngest being my cousin Elliot, who went over at 18 and at the ripe old age of 30, already he's got to be at least 31-ish now, became a Australian citizen, dual citizenship, actually. And yeah, they just up sticks and fuck off.
My great aunt moved over there years and years ago. So I've got a whole selection of cousins and stuff, second cousins and all sorts, and aunties and uncles and whatnot, that all live in Australia.
It was so cool because my dad's cousin came over over from his two daughters are both Australian, never stepped foot over here. But when his first daughter was little, he wanted to bring her over for Christmas. Family like to come and see the family and get her baptized because we're well, I say they're Catholic. And so he brought her over, and the minute she got into Newcastle, she started chattering. And she couldn't stop chattering for days afterwards. She's never felt temperature like this before. Australia does not have this temperature. She was absolutely great. Imogen. And the other, so she's got such a, like, I would say a very English name. The other one has such an Australian name. She's called Talia.
Reminds me of Percy Jackson, Talia.
Talia. I can just hear them saying it. So the film does kick off. It's set in 1999.
Mm-hmm. So 6 years before it was made.
I didn't even. To be honest, I don't even think the time of when it is made any difference.
No, because that could have it.
It could have been yesterday.
Could have been now. The only thing that they didn't have was mobile phones, but then they wouldn't work out in half of Australia anyway. So
I love films when mobile phones are not even an issue. They're not even like a thought.
Yeah.
Take up too much of our lives.
Yeah.
And you get to meet straight away now, I thought there was more girls than there actually was.
Right.
I thought there was at least 3 or 4 of them. But when you get to the nooks and crannies of it all, it's I nearly said nooks and crannies.
Well, you wouldn't be wrong. I mean, let's be honest.
There's only 2.
Yeah.
But I thought I was like, I'm sure there's, but at the party there was more people there. That's
their goodbye party from being at wherever they were before.
I could not live that life. I'm not gonna lie.
I have a sense of need to know that I have a roof over my head when I stop.
I like me bed too much.
I'm not really a nomad lifestyle, fly by the seat of my pants person. I'm quite organised, and everything would scare me if I had to. Don't get me wrong, if you get pissed on a night out and there's loads of you and there's a beach party and you all fall asleep on the beach, that's one thing. But going to somewhere where you have you just have no end game. Like there's no stop. There's no that. As someone who struggles with having an obsessive compulsive order and a need for order and a need for just information, it's really, really difficult for me to wrap my head around. But I understand that people enjoy that, and I think it's always really nice and refreshing to watch it when they're not atypical with it as well. Like they decided to make two of the girls British, didn't they?
They did. Took me ages to realise that wasn't Keira Knightley.
I actually thought she was really English as well.
And it's either Kieran or Daisy Ridley. I was like, which one are you?
Yeah, she Liz, that's the one. Liz I actually really thought was British, and she's not. She's an Aussie as well. All 3 of them are Australian.
Oh, you could not tell.
So I'm going to call her Christy because that was her character name. And
it's easier than trying to say her name.
Yeah. Christy and Liz were both Australian, but they played British, and Ben was Australian, obviously. Yeah.
Well, so we get to meet the main people. Now, I just want to go on to this ever so slightly before we get into the film, is when it says it's based on a true story, it is. Actually, do you know when I was reading about it, it is quite close, mind. It's not. I know that a lot of they've tried to like play it down, like it's not really, but it fucking is. It's of the backpack murders, spree killing that happened in New South Wales, Australia, between 1989 and 1993. Ivan Millet.
Yep.
Nasty bastard he was. Yep.
I've even got a photo of him. Look.
Nasty. What a tash.
That's a chop tash, isn't it?
That is handlebar mustache at its finest. Our audio people won't be able to see it, but it's
you can Google it. It's not an offensive photo, it's a mugshot photo.
Yeah. I I don't know. How many did he kill?
They think, I think it was 7 he was suspected of, but he never admitted to any of them.
Right, got you. So he would it was mainly backpackers. It says the bodies of 7 missing young people aged between 19 and 22 were discovered partially buried in the Belanglo State Forest, 15 kilometers southwest of New South Wales. 5 of the victims were foreign backpackers, 3 German, 2 British, and 2 were Australian from Melbourne. He was convicted of the murders in 96, sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences, and the motherfucker died of natural causes in 2019.
Yep, and the similar things happened, like when they went to his house, he had a room of possessions that weren't his. He wanted to blame, because the story about him is kind of sad. Like when you look at it, and I will always say this, the killer as a child is a child. The killer as a child hasn't premeditated any of this. It's possibly knocking around in some form of trauma in his brain, but it's still a child, right? So as a child, he was brought up as he was number 5 of 14 kids. Yeah. I mean, 14. Jesus.
It's bad enough having one.
Fighting for any kind of anything in to be in there somewhere was difficult enough. And he was sent to reform school when he was 13.
Right.
So obviously the behaviour to get noticed and the need for attention started. And then he went into detention centres when he was 17. He just petty crimes. And then he started with B&E as he got a little bit older. And then he went into the territory of kidnap, which was when he first started. Like, he kidnapped 2 18-year-old hitchhikers, and then he committed rape on one of them as well. So he escalated from petty crime.
Well, that's how it starts. Bundy didn't just go out and murder someone straight away. It was a build-up. They're always a build-up, because it's and it comes down to the thrill of it. If I can get away with this, what can I get away with next? And it to the point where it escalates. I didn't go into too much of a deep dive on him.
I didn't, but I found a story, and the story was really interesting. It was just a fun story, and they explained some of the injuries and the things he used to do, which I don't know if I want to go into. I mean, I've got it here, but when we're looking at Mick,
quite similar.
It's not necessarily depicted in the movies, but it's the same level of brutality and the same level of callousness, and just I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for. It's the one where, someone can take themselves out of a situation.
Oh yeah.
They know that they're doing it. Yeah, but they know, they're aware of doing it, and there's a purpose. It's serving for something. But the actual normal, the moral part of the brain just doesn't exist, and that's what they came down to. It's like some sort of sociopathy. Like,
it's where they can separate themselves from the situation. They can separate themselves from the situation. It's like the trauma becomes them for a certain part of time, but then they can quite easily flip it back to what would be deemed as normal.
Yeah.
You find that a lot with serial killers.
Well, the saddest thing was he tried to blame all the murders on his brothers as well.
Oh, harsh.
Which was obviously, you fight a lot in a family that large, and you're going to have enemies, and it just turned out that unfortunately his brothers were his enemies, or so he thought, and used to try and do that. But the weirdest thing was, when he was in prison, he cut off his little finger.
Why?
With a plastic knife. So we're talking one of those little white ones with the serrated edge. Imagine having the ability to do that without passing out from the pain. I mean, we're talking about a plastic serrated.
I'm going to pass out by you just telling us it.
He thought it would help the courts give him some sort of leniency, some sort of appeal. I don't know whether it was based on like insanity
Oh,
or
madness. Yeah.
something like that, but it didn't end. It didn't end well for him. They didn't grant him an appeal. He also asked the government to pay for his funeral when he died, and they said, "Get as it's Australia, get fucked, mate."
You can get in the fucking bin. Literally.
Yeah, and the saddest thing genuinely was that no matter how much he was how much he talked to press, they ended up putting a gag order on him and told him he wasn't allowed to discuss it. Ivan Millet was he never admitted in the 20 years until he died, or something like it was, since he committed the murders, never admitted to killing one person, just blamed everybody else, which is a pretty messed up kind of story to stumble upon, let alone base a movie loosely on. So
yeah, it's a sad thing when people of that nature still has that control.
Yeah,
because it's if someone is not going to admit to it, that's not. And yes, he's in prison and he served time for it, but for families and the victims' families, there's no confirmation there. There's no clarity there. We will never understand because we've never been put in that position. But people need to know.
Yeah,
it's important to know what happened to your loved one.
Yeah. And there was another murderer as well who was he had a different name, and I've forgotten what it is, because really I don't fucking care, because he shouldn't get any of my airtime, really. I don't know. I'm only focusing on this for context.
Yeah.
But he was the one who was responsible for killing the British backpackers in 2005. It was roughly when the film came out, because they asked the film to be released a bit later once the verdict had come out, because it was right in the middle of the court case. I don't know if anybody remembers, but at a point there was two backpackers in a people carrier, VW, that was going around Australia and doing what they do. And this guy approached them with the guise of telling them that their back axle was sparking. There was issues with the car from behind, so they pulled over. And he pulled over, and the guy came out, and they started talking, and he was like, no, this is happening, your car's broken. Next thing you know, she heard a pop, and the partner was killed. I think she was held captive for a little while, but eventually they either rescued her, she got loose. I can't remember the minutiae of that one, but she survived. I do know that.
I remember that. When you mentioned it there, it came back to us.
There's nods to the camper van and the couple in this film also. So it's kind of like the choices that he's made with it is, there's some nods to it, and I don't think it's been done like a glory, like when they glorify something. I don't think it's been done that way. But there's the mine shaft. Did you see that bit where they went past the mine shaft company, and it's Ivan Millet's name reversed on itself?
No, I didn't.
So yeah, the mining company was the murderer from the first story that I told you. His name in some sort of palindrome or some sort of way of like mixing it up. I can't remember if it was like something like that, like an anagram or something, but it was his name, because he wanted to drop little hints to show that he nodded to the source material, but he wasn't
plagiarizing it. There's such a fine line, isn't there? I know that I read that the crew found an abandoned mine, which was unbeknownst to them was actually a crime scene. How many people get killed out here?
It's Australia.
Who the fuck would want to go? This is why my bed is so appealing.
That's why you stick to the cities and you don't go to the outback.
Fuck that.
No, thank you. No, thank you very much.
No, thank you at all. So there is a very long period of time from the beginning up until when you meet Mick.
Yes.
And holy shit, is he a fucking handful of a person. He reminds me of someone, and I cannot for the life of us think of who it is.
Well, I found
But
something to say what Glenn based him on, and Greg, sorry, based him on, and I'm just going to find it for you now. Yeah, he crafted aspects of Mick Taylor's personality after Australian pop culture guys like Steve Irwin.
I can see where he's coming from. I've just scared the shit out of Loki. I could see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
wanted to make him likable because he
and
had
he
to
was.
catch them. That's the thing. The thing that people don't understand is a lot of it is charm and charisma. And
Yeah.
Mick has charm and charisma.
Oh, by the buckets.
And that's the thing. And this is where the that's not a knife.
This is a knife.
Knife.
Um,
That came in through the fact that the girls kept saying he reminds me of Crocodile Dundee. He reminds me of Crocodile Dundee. So then they had him say the line in the movie is a nod. So
there is such an element of comedy when Mick comes on. It's actually a bit of a relief. You know you're watching a horror film.
yeah,
Instantly know. And they are in the middle of fucking butt crack nowhere. Like
yeah.
there's nothing. Their car is all fucked up. And they are saved by a very friendly man in a van who offers to take them back to his place for absolutely nothing, or they can wait it out and see what happens.
Yeah.
Now, it's such a what I really, really loved about the part where you get to know Mick, and he's got such a sense of humor, and then all of a sudden they're getting in the car, and it just flips instantly, and she is tied up and the movie is changed on its arse in a second. You haven't even had time to consider what has happened. You are instantly in that moment with her where she is tied up on the floor,
Well, they have
gagged.
that bit around the fire, don't
The
they?
campfire, yeah.
Yeah, they come back. They've gone out on their own. They've decided they're going to stop at Wolf Creek just as a let's have a look. So they go up, they walk up, they have a look, they come back down, their car don't start. Stranger comes, it's Mick. He tells them, "Oh, come with me, I'll sort you out." Tows them back. They're at the fire. They're sitting around the fire, and there's this one bit where you can see a glimmer of what Mick's intentions are, and whether you see it or not on the first watch, I don't know if you will, but there was something where the girl said something about I think it was something like mosquitoes, or they didn't like something in the kangaroos. There was a conversation about kangaroos, and he says they're bloody vermin, and then he starts going on about how he used to be like a gamekeeper, like a rodent pest.
Yeah.
And then he starts listing off all the animals he used to kill. And they were like, "Oh, you don't kill kangaroos, do you?" Or something like that. And he turned around and he went, "Yeah, I'd exterminate them just like tourists." And there's this
Oh, yes, I remember that
like
line.
a tiny little line. That's not verbatim, by the way, but it's something to do, like a lot
Yeah.
of lines of that. And it's just a tiny little line. And they all look at him and he's deadpan. There's nothing there. There's nothing behind his eyes. He's changed from that comedy guy with that really disturbing laugh, but he's kind of at the same time.
It's so
That's all
good.
gone. That
Yeah.
person's gone, and you just see that glimmer. And then he snaps out of it. He realizes,
And then instantly puts the laugh back on again. I remember that. But then he gets them to drink the special milk.
yeah, it's from the
And
top
to me, I'm not paying attention to that.
No.
He's just give them a drink. They're having a laugh. And then she's all tied up and gagged up.
Yeah.
It's the transform from one to the other.
Yeah.
And it's so severe. There's no in between.
It's because they were having a good time around the campfire, and last thing you see is her saying to Ben, "Move the cooler away from the fire." And then boom, you're there. She's in this camper and she's tied up, and we're at this point where we're like, we knew this was coming somewhere, but I didn't know it'd be now, and I didn't know it would be
so soon. And we are in the middle of it. We're not even at the beginning. We're not at the end. We are right in the middle, where Liz wakes up from her fucking drug milk. She didn't like milk.
No, she did not.
And she then sees Mick torturing Kirsty.
She manages to escape though, doesn't she? She's all tied up and she manages to like cut
How big
the
is that
vines.
yard, by the way?
Well, the bigger question I have is, right, how long was she in there? Because it looked like it started off and it was daytime,
Mm-hmm.
and then she fell asleep crying and woke up and then found a bit of glass, cut herself free of like
The vines.
the vines and jumps out the window. And I thought, well, okay, he hadn't really thought this through if he didn't put her in somewhere where there was a window that can be opened. But
Yeah.
we'll have a word about that later, Mick, you know.
Yeah. But she runs around all over the place, to be honest, before she gets to Kirsty.
How she wasn't, I mean, obviously he was preoccupied when we find out he's preoccupied, but I was like, you're going to get caught. Stop that. Just stop it.
No, I didn't realize that he had raped Kirsty.
I don't know if he had at that point or he was intending to, but
Right.
it was one of those things where he previously has with the other people that he
Right.
is telling her that he'd brought back and had, and like I don't know, but there is a body hanging in the corner that is just a spine and some bits of torso left on it, maybe a leg or two, like a stump. I can't really remember because it's one of those things. It's a flash image, isn't it? You don't really see it. Doesn't linger on it.
It doesn't actually with later on as well.
Yeah,
you don't get to see the detail of things, which I thought was actually quite a nice touch because it's like we don't need to linger on that. We need to know it's there, but and that's fine.
Because it sharpens that level of brutality that you know is capable of.
Yeah,
like you're like, what the fuck did I just see? Hang on a minute, because you don't have time to digest it, and you're like, oh my god. So your brain thinks it's probably 20 times worse than what you've just seen as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. When Kirsty's kind of like tied up, being absolutely tortured physically, mentally, emotionally, because she's her face looks all kinds of messed up. And then she comes out with this hysterical fucking laugh. I've heard that laugh. I've done that laugh.
That laugh is something else, isn't it?
That laugh. Well, it's the laugh of I fucking got you, you bitch. And Liz is standing behind Mick with a gun. Why the fuck did she not go at least try the top of the head?
Because it's a movie and people are dumb.
She really what the choices. She gets him in the neck.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it with the eyes of if this was real, say, right?
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what kind of fate
I'm saying this. I wouldn't have been able to shoot straight. I'd have hit his
This
toe.
is what I'm thinking. The sheer stress, the lack of sleep, the amount of adrenaline, the heart bursting out of her chest.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be lucky just to press the trigger and not shoot myself, I think. But in the same vein,
knowing my look, I probably would.
I'd shoot my sister or my friend, whoever she is. I don't know. You don't really find out the relationship between the two of them.
No.
I didn't pick up whether they were sisters or whether they were just friends, but I'm thinking they were more just friends because there wasn't really familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a friendship more than anything else.
But no Ben to be seen at this point. There is no Ben to be seen.
And that was so good because all I kept thinking of, and this is how brilliant Ben is at the beginning, because all I was like, oh, where's Ben? How's Ben? Like, I understand what you're going through. I can see what you're going through, but where's Ben? Why isn't he here? What has happened to him? That's how good of a character Ben was for me, because I genuinely fucking cared about his well-being.
Well, there's that scene, isn't there, at the gas station or the diner where he goes in to get something for the food, and those creepy dudes are trying to like talk about feeling up the girls, and he actually stands up for them. So you know that's where he sits. Yeah. So you're like, right, okay, that's Ben is a good stand-up guy, so we're okay with him, you know.
I like this person. Once Mick's been hit in the neck, he goes down like a sack shit, and the girls run away. Good for them. They're gone. Don't get very far though. Well, Liz doesn't get very far before.
Go on,
poor decision making again. What did she want to go back for? Was she going for
keys.
her? The key. Fucking.
That's the thing. I think the idea in my head would be, right, okay, if I take the car, it's going to take him longer to find us because we can get away further quicker. However,
We're in the Outback.
she
We can
left the
hide.
gun next to him and took the keys because he has a massive. There's two guns at this situation. He's got a rifle that he was wheeling around, teasing
Yeah.
Christy with, and then there's the shotgun that is there as well. Like, I can't remember whether she hit him with the rifle. I think she did. She hit him with the rifle.
I think she hit him with the rifle.
And then, she gets Christy in the car, in the truck, and she just all of a sudden, like, she realizes they're screaming and screaming. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, I give Christy a due. She plays mentally.
Unbelievably well.
I don't even know the word for the state that she was in, but she played that so well that I got to the point where I was like, now please be quiet.
Yeah.
Please be quiet now.
And I get it, because the hysteria will just completely take over. Yeah. It's but almost like you can't control this anymore.
Yeah, but you're not safe. You can't.
No.
I see, like, when she was sitting in there, she's, no, I'm thinking, you're not helping. You're probably making it really hard for Liz to try and work out what she needs to do next. So when Liz sat there and she had no keys and she knew she had to go in and get the keys and see if they were on Mick, I was just like, oh God, Christy, just shut the fuck up. Just give her a second. She needs to just digest what she's got to do before she does it, because he could potentially still be alive. We don't know.
Exactly. Nobody knows. You only hit him in the neck. The best part about it is, though, she puts Christy in a place where she's like, if I don't come back in 5 minutes, you go.
Yeah.
And I thought that's really clever, because you genuinely, if you're going to put yourself in a risky position, you don't know what's going to happen. So give that person, don't tell them to come back for you.
Yeah.
Tell them to go. And that's what she did. It was Liz's downfall, though, going back.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give her a dues. They managed to total his truck, didn't they? When they escaped in it, they totaled his truck by pushing it off a cliff, which I thought was a stupid dick move, for many, many reasons. But you just think, okay, movie.
Yeah.
It is the movies, and they do stupid things like cling onto the side of a cliff. All right.
Hollywood. Oh, sorry, Australia would.
Well, the scene where you see the girls and Mick pulls up.
Yeah.
And the girls are on the cliff, and they're clinging for dear life onto the side of the cliff. That was all filmed on a rig. So the cameraman's on a rig and the girls are on a rig, but they're all in the
harnesses,
the waist harnesses and everything. So they're actually clinging onto the side of a real cliff. When it was shot, and that scene is one of the most iconic shots. That's shot where Mick is backlit by the headlights at the top of the cliff, and the girls so you see the shadows of the girls on the cliff. That bit's one of the most famous clips from the film.
Oh, but I thought it was Kirsty running down the middle of the highway.
There's a few, but that, like, of Mick, that's like one of Mick's epic shots.
I'll tell you, is an epic shot later on.
He's pissed they totaled his truck, and so
it was a nice looking truck.
It was a Ford F-150. It was a really old Ford F-150.
I love trucks, and I don't know why, but the northeast of England seems to have a lot of trucks. I don't know where they're fucking driving them, but my street alone has 4. My over the road neighbour has a beautiful one, and there's a couple around the corner. And I said to my mum, I want a truck. I want to be a truck driver. She's like, it took you fucking ages to drive your car. Like, because I've only ever been used to little bitty cars. Like, diddy little, like, I had a Corsa, Toyota Yaris, which is fucking tiny. And now I'm driving a Qashqai, and she's like, who do you think you are? Like, you're gonna go in for the monster trucks next. Fuck yeah. I think they're beautiful. That truck was beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know whether, like, it falls into the category of a ute. A ute. But yeah, they then managed to scramble up to the top of the hill after Mick goes down to see the wreckage of his baby.
It does say ute in my notes.
There you
I
go.
never noticed that until now.
Ute. A utility vehicle. That's the Australian short
Oh,
of what
fuck
a
off.
ute is. Yeah. A ute.
After
But yeah, so
things.
then they managed to sit there and then for some reason, I don't know what, I think Liz goes back for Ben, does she? Or she goes back for another car? I can't remember. She goes back for some.
My notes just say Liz leaves the hysterical Christy outside, telling her, oh, this is where she tells her to escape on foot if she doesn't return in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not earlier, it's now. It's after the whole ute incident. And this is where Liz enters the garage and Mick's right there.
Now I forgot about this scene. I forgot about this scene because I remembered the bit where she got in the car, but the way that was shot was quite good. The way it was shot, where she was sat there, she was shaking to the extent of that she couldn't find the right key. There was loads of keys on the key ring, and she finally found the key. And the relief of when she finally got it to turn over, and then you just hear his little, like, you hear a breath, and then from the front screen you don't quite see him. You see him in the shadow, but you know it's Mick because you can see the hat. And then, like, you see him sort of, I can't remember if it's come out of the shadow and move forward or come up from like the back. The whole time he was in that specific vehicle, knowing that she'd get in that specific vehicle. And I thought it was really fucking clever. And then jam, there we go.
Yeah.
So
I actually missed the end of her kill. So because the finger incident freaked me out. So, and it's quite funny because this is the moment where he goes, you know, when your friend said this is not a knife, because he pulls out this fucking Crocodile Dundee knife. She pulls out a mini one.
Yeah, because at this
pen knife.
When she was looking for the car key, she found his trophy room. She found where all the people's possessions have been kept with all the people he's had over the years. And I found out that most of those pictures were of Greg's family and friends. So they were just like random photos out of a photo book that he put in the room. She starts to look through some of the camcorders and see what's going on.
That's where she gets to see. Does she see Ben?
Yeah, because Ben does a bit of filming at one point at one of the rest stops, doesn't he?
That's it. That's when she sees. It's when they are. Is it just after they bought the car? It's so early on.
Yeah, one of the first stops they do.
Yes, and he's talking to the guy at the petrol station, and you can see Mick's truck.
Yeah,
right next to them.
You don't notice it when you see them.
When they're there, because the point of view,
that scene play out where he's filming it. But when you rewatch it, his truck's there because obviously you're not looking for it.
No, you're not. Yeah, exactly. And that's when Liz realizes that this has been planned all along.
Someone's been hunting them. So this is where she finds the little piddly knife, the little Swiss Army knife,
and she bless her heart, she gets it out.
She tried.
And that's when he does the greatest line of, "You think that's a knife? This is a knife." And as she puts her hands up to defend herself, he takes her fucking fingers.
Yes.
My toes have literally curled like that.
It's what he does next.
So this is what I mean. Because I am having an absolute meltdown over the fingers, I haven't released my hands from my eyes yet. I didn't realize he severed her fucking spinal cord.
Yes, because he had a thing. He stood there and he was like, oh, this is something they did in Vietnam. Head on a stick. Head on a stick is all he kept saying. Head on a stick. And he grabs her by the throat and he severs her spinal cord so she can no longer move, walk. She's just a head on a stick. Because that's the only part of her that can still sort of have any movement. But he knew what he was doing. Because obviously he's dealt with animals and however many people in the time that Mick has been operating doing what it is he does.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So
and he just wants to know where Kirsty. Why do I keep calling her Kirsty? Christy is.
Yep. Because he has a thing. He picked her specifically, and I don't know why. Out of the three, she was the one that he honed in on, and I don't know. Did she say something when they were around the campfire? I don't remember.
Not that I could pick up on.
No, but something charmed him with her. Like it was.
But I wasn't paying attention to, because at the time, like, I obviously knew that Mick was the antagonist in this, or the monster in this movie, but I don't know how it's going to play out. Yeah. Like I couldn't even imagine that what was about to transpire was going to transpire. I just thought it was going to be something along the lines of House of a Thousand Corpses style. Kind of almost is, really.
Yeah, I'd say it's the Aussie version, but
yeah,
kind of, but not really. But
tastefully done.
Yeah, I mean, like
no fish boys,
no Dwights on a fish. No, it's I can see where I can see where it's going, because if you watch 2 and the other bits as well, it makes more of a sense that it's that's where it is. Yeah, for sure. This, before we move on to, like, obviously then that's the end of Liz, shall we say?
Yeah, bye Liz.
So before we move on to what happens next, I actually found out this is one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite horror movies.
Well,
that's some high praise, isn't it? I mean, the guy, whether you like him or not, the guy has got a history for a reason, of directing movies that have influenced cinema for years.
Influenced me. Like,
yes.
I love talking about films because of the way that I've heard Tarantino talk about films. He didn't just love this fucking movie. He actually has this movie in one of his movies.
Yes, he does.
It's playing in the background, and if he had his way, we would not have had Kurt Russell in Death Proof as Stuntman Mike. We would have had Mike as Stuntman Mike.
He wanted John Jarratt, didn't he?
He wanted him so badly, and he could not get him. So his way of paying homage to his favorite movie of all time was actually putting it on in the bar of Death Proof.
Yeah, John Jarratt, I will say, is one of the nicest people I've ever met. Nicest guy. He called me. I don't know if I can say this word or not, but I'll try, and you'll get what I mean. I had to, when I had my photo taken with him at HorrorCon years and years ago when he was there, and the photo came out pony, so they told me to go around and do it again. And as I started coming around, he looked at me and he went, "What are you doing here again?" And I was like, "Oh, the photo came out shit the first time." And he was like, "You fucking cockneys," and he's doing this chimney sweep dance at me. So we both ended up chimney sweep dancing at each other. And then he turned around and he said to me, "You're a pummy." And then he said, "See you next Tuesday," to my face. And I fucking burst out laughing. And I couldn't stop laughing after that. So the photo is a really good photo of me and him, because he the way he was just like, "You're a pummy, see you next Tuesday." I was like, excellent.
I love that.
And he was just the nicest man. And like, when you hear it come out of his mouth when he's not all mutton chops and like plaid, lumberjack shirts and shit, he's just like, "Grandpa, don't do that,"
behave.
I mean, he, like I say, he did a movie, and I don't know if many people know this movie. It's called Rogue, and it's about a crocodile, and it was Silent Hill, Rhonda, she's an Aussie as well. The Silent Hill movie, the woman who played the mum in the Silent Hill movie, you've not seen it. Oh, good God, woman. Yeah.
No, you need Graham for that conversation.
Yeah. Well, she is in this film Rogue with him, and it's about this crocodile, and they get stranded on a tiny island, and they can't get off of it because the crocodile is like this prehistoric giant crocodile, but it's not done in a really bad way.
Yes.
Piranha 3D or any of those, like Sharknado is done. It's done really well.
You behave yourself. There's some good films.
But no, it's done really, really well. And John Jarratt plays the geeky little guy in the corner with like the sandwiches and the carrier bag kind of man. And it's so different from Mick.
Yeah.
It's really well done. It used to be on Netflix. It might still be. It's called Rogue. And it's definitely worth a watch, just for the fact that you don't hate a character as much as you hate his character by the end of the film.
Oh, see, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, given that I've kind of fallen a little bit, and I don't know if I should. It's like it's so conflicting. He is a bad man.
He is. And the thing, you going back to what you said about Tarantino, though,
Mm.
John did actually get a part in one of Tarantino's films,
Which one?
Django Unchained.
Shut the fuck up.
No,
I
he played
love that fucking film.
a farmhand. He's just playing a farmhand
Oh, what?
and I don't know whether it was on the plantation, where Django and that go up to Leo's place, or
Candyland.
Miami Vice's place. I can't remember. Don
Oh,
Johnson.
yeah.
It might have
Yeah.
been in one of those, but John Jarrett is in
Oh
Django.
my God. I love Django. I know people have a lot to say on Tarantino, but I'm a fan. The only movie I have not been able to get away with was Hateful Eight, and it's just how heavy dialogued it is.
Yeah.
It's far. I understand when you're watching a Tarantino movie, you're in it for the dialogue
Yeah.
because he can fucking pull it out like no other can. But that was too much. And that's all that it felt like nothing happened because the fuckers wouldn't shut up. No movement was taking place, and it's the only one of his that I've not gotten away with. But I fucking and can't understand it. When I go on a Tarantino like sit down and get a word I keep using this week, comfy and cozy. I start with Kill Bill, but I start with Kill Bill 2 and then go to 1. Don't ask us why. I can kind of separate the two. I really can. And then I'll go Django. And then I'll go Planet Terror, even though I know that's not. Then I'll go Death Proof. And then now added in there is the newest one, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Fucking love it.
Reservoir Dogs will always
See.
be, because of my obsession with Tim Roth. When I was younger and Tim was younger, and he was like my poster boy because he was my height, and because I think something about him. He was like one of those, they always used to have like strange weird Crush Wednesday or something in those magazines.
Yeah.
And Tim Roth was always like I don't know what it was, even as a monkey in when
I
we
get it. No,
I
I even get it now. Like he is.
yeah.
There's something about him.
When I haven't seen Tin Star, but that's supposed to be fantastic. But he lied to me when he did that. I was obsessed with that. He was
He was
also
in Shield.
Yeah, he's been in so many things. And Tim Roth, obviously, he was the Abomination, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Emil, what's his name?
Oh,
I loved the way they turned it around in She-Hulk. With his character.
He was a proper calm and collected, peaceful guy. I do love Reservoir Dogs. Me and my sister have such a huge love for that movie. It was like one that we always
be Mr. Pink.
we even named our hamsters after. I don't know what. Oh yeah, my sister had babysat two of the most adorable hamsters, Caramel and Fudge, and she had babysat them while my cousin was away, and she loved them so. And they were the best. You could handle them. They were playful. So when they went, my mom said, you did such a great job, and you took care of them very well. Would you like your own? So we went out to the pet shop and bought 2 hamsters. My sister couldn't just get 2 fucking regular hamsters. No, she had to get Russian dwarf ones. She got this huge princess tank, these 2 fucking crazy ass Russian dwarf ones, and I got this albino white one who was just left completely by itself. Pink, the red eyes, completely white, and she was like, "Will you get one and help?" And like, we'll make a thing of it, like where she's got, because it was like teaching Michaela responsibilities and that. And I was like, "Yeah, no problem." A fucking hamster hated me, so we had such a fight over the names: the Mr. Pink, Mr. Blonde, Mr. Blue, the fucking hamsters though. So our bins used to go out every Wednesday, and my mum was like, right, the tanks have to be cleaned out every Tuesday night, ready for the bin on Wednesday. And we went in one night, and Michaela went to put her hand in because she would take them out of the tank, and so she could clean them up and put them in the bowl. And this fucking Raji one started going around her fingers and biting the shit out of her. So my mum had to go and investigate. They didn't just fucking sell her a boy and a girl. Sold her two. No, this didn't sell her two boys. They sold her a boy and a girl. Had fucking babies. Michaela went and interrupted them. Few days later, them babies were no longer there.
Oh, they ate them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had to separate them. So one got a princess tank and the other one didn't. Fucking hamsters, man.
Well, this film in itself was only shot in 25 days.
I can understand that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a very guerrilla style
Yeah.
film in the sense of that it's done in compact.
So indie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
but with money indie. You could.
Yeah.
I don't know why the cinematography too. It just made us feel like, oh, there's money there.
Yes, there was. It had. Bearing in mind this is Australian dollars, so at the time of 2005, usually Aussie dollars are a bit more expensive than pounds.
Yeah.
But I did it in Australian dollars, so it had a budget of 1.4 million in 2005, which is the equivalent to 2.26 in today's money. But at the box office, and bearing in mind it didn't have a huge run, it premiered at the Sundance Festival, and then took off from there and was only took up in about 27 cinemas across the whole of Australia. So it had a very short, limited run before it got like worldwide release. But it made 12.8 million in the box office, which is 20.7 million by today's standards. So, I mean, for a tiny little movie that had no financial business really being there, it's a hell of a profit to make, you know.
There's a lot of shrimp on the Barbie.
She said that, not me.
I said that with a straight face. So Christie's little jaunt.
Yes, we go to poor Christy. And I actually did find out she filmed that whole scene where she ran in barefoot. She did the whole thing in barefoot.
It's when you see Ben later on. Is it Ben? We see him later on running across the desert in barefoot. Oh, my feet ached for him.
Apparently, she had to be taken after they filmed the scenes. She had to be taken because she had barbs in the bottom of her feet. She had glass, stones, all sorts of things. She cut the bottoms of her feet to ribbons. It was really, but she insisted. She said it made sense.
It's so effective.
Yeah,
it is so effective because you feel every inch of her running when she's running across the road. You feel everything, and when that fucking car comes along,
I was like, "Oh God, it's that Nick."
That's my initial thought, and then I was like, oh, it can't have been, like, she's so far away. He can't possibly be anywhere near.
But you have no concept of time as well, because it's like you don't know she's been running for 2 days straight. You don't know she's been running for an hour. Yeah. There's no you've got no idea how long it's taking her to get to the main road, and that's something I find quite good, because you're like, oh, how near could Mick be if because he's alive, because he tried to shoot the girls whilst they were in the ute as they were escaping. So he's alive. He's been shot in the neck, but you're like, how alive is he? Has he managed to stop the bleeding, or
exactly? I mean, all he did was put a fucking handkerchief around his neck and hope for the best. But she pulls this car over, who turns out to be a lovely little old man. I don't know if he's lovely. I'm just guessing.
Well, he went to get her a blanket and some soup or tea.
He did. So yeah, I'll give him the man, a lovely old man, and he puts her in the back seat, and she instantly lies down.
Yeah,
I was so screaming at later on. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, lovely little old man gets his head taken off with a fucking rifle.
Yep, sharpshooter.
Where the fuck is this rifle?
Yeah,
but it's out. It's so cleverly done, because it's all you've got is one long road and a lot of fucking outback.
Just nothing.
Yeah,
bushes, tiny little, like, we're talking like the tumbleweed style bushes. That's all you've got. Red brick, sand, tumbleweed bushes, fencing along the side of the road and one solid tarmac road. You can see for miles and you can't see shit. You don't know where this has come from, which is really fucking scary.
It's terrifying, and it's heartbreaking at the same time, because Christie's like, she's lying in the back seat praying to the whoever she prays to.
Yeah.
She's safe.
Mm-hmm.
She's safe now. She's not. She's not at all. This is where I start getting so angry at her. If she just lay down, if she just kept her head down,
yes,
she'd have been okay.
Yes. The problem that she had was that she didn't really understand what had happened, because obviously she was in so much shock from all the shit she'd gone through. She was probably incredibly dehydrated from crossing the bush, the Outback, and the relief she found when she flagged him down and got in. So her body was doing two things. It was like it had spiked, and then she was relaxing because she found somebody, and then like she was so confused when she looked up and there was like blood all over the back door, you know. And she then realized she couldn't drive the car because the keys were in the boot, so she had to get out and get the keys, and that's where she saw the little old fellas on the floor with half his head missing. So she finally gets in the car and she starts to drive it away. And then you just see this fucking great big car, like proper muscle car, rolling down the road with like, and this is where it goes a bit Mad Max for me. It feels like it's a bit of a homage to the original Mad Max, because what people don't know, I'm not talking about your Tom Hardy one, I'm talking about the original Mel Gibson Mad Max movie. And it is car chases. That is all that film is. We're not talking Thunderdome shit. The Thunderdome shit is number 3. Number 1 is car chases. And that's what it reminded me of, because it was very much like he was intimidating her, he was playing with her, because he knew his car could piss all over that little equivalent to a Fiat Uno in today's standards. But yeah, he's in a muscle car and she's in like a Renault 5. You know, it's not going to happen.
Little itty bitty car.
Because you hear her screaming at the car. She's got that pedal to the floor. She's screaming at it, come on, because she's so determined to get away. And there is not a chance in hell she would with that car coming up.
Well, she actually clips it.
Yeah.
And it goes off the road and she does that hysterical fucking laugh again. And then Mick's like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Shoots the back tire out. But the speed she's going, it bowls her. It rolls her to the point where she's upside down. But she does get out.
She doesn't know what she's doing. You can tell she's so
disorientated,
shook, like physically and mentally, that she just falls out of the car door, doesn't she? She's like,
and makes that a greater.
Yeah.
And puts her out of her misery once and for all. Honestly, I was rooting for her. I really was. Do you know what it was giving us? It was giving us Sally vibes at the end of Texas Chainsaw.
Well, that's
like,
there's a couple of homages to Hills Have Eyes in this film, and the Texas Chainsaw. They tried to do subtle hints to it all the way through, like keeping her in white. Like Sally had a white tank top on, didn't she?
She did. And
so they wanted to keep her in white to give the final girl kind of aesthetic, and then they wanted to just go, haha, you don't get your final girl.
Took it away.
You're not getting her in this one. That's not what this film's about.
No, they took her away from us.
They did, yeah. I mean, they did something very, very clever. I think they knew they were onto a winner with Mick. So they couldn't kill him off because they knew he had more to give. Like, and I'm not just talking about cheesy sequels. Like, we're not talking like Freddy number 7 or something, like where it's absolute dog shit and it's just comedy.
But there's somewhere they could go with him.
Yeah, he had so much potential as a character.
Yeah, there was somewhere they could go with him, and I like the fact that they left. Well, we'll get there, but they left that door open. Once
where we see Ben, isn't it? It just clicks.
So we see Ben. This is where I felt like they could have shortened the beginning part to concentrate, because when you see Ben, it's very much Ben out, saved, movie done. I just wish they explored that just a little bit longer. But what we got of Ben, oh my God, I was not expecting it. Ben is held up in a crucified position with his, but it's like he's got pins in his arms keeping pins.
Well, this is what they were saying. The reason why they said Mick went for this kind of thing was because he wanted to show he was attempting to be their savior. So it had like a double meaning. Like Ben was their savior, so they wanted to show that he thought, screw your savior. This is what happens to saviors. They get crucified.
Yeah.
And he actually did crucify him the way that it is in the Bible, through the wrists, not through the hands. Because in all the pictures and obviously statues you see of Jesus as he is, they always put it through the hands because they say it's less offensive. Although I'm sure if Jesus really did exist, he'd be really happy everybody's wearing dead pictures of him dead around their neck, and like
he's hanging from a fucking cross. He eventually gets a fucking spear in the ribs.
Like, yeah, the stigmata list is a hell of a one, isn't it? You know, when you start going into it all. But
I generally thought once I was going through the stigmata. Not even joking. Can't remember what it was now. It was something to do with my feet.
Oh God!
Oh, that's right. I don't know. I don't know why. A couple of years ago, I was getting pains going through the middle of my feet. And I says to Anth, I really think I'm honestly going through the stigmata.
Gabriel Byrne knock on your front door and he was just giving you
honestly,
Trisha Rocket speech.
I fucking love that man. That man is absolutely gorgeous in that film. I've got such a weird thing for older men, and he is one of them. Yeah, I convinced myself I was going through the stigmata because my feet hurt.
Oh, just honestly, it's one of those things I always think of quite a lot, you know, and like I said, I'm not ruling anything out because at the end of the day, there's no proof any of us could be wrong at any point, right? But if Jesus really was real and he died the way he died, do you really think it's respectful to have his last moments hang around your neck on a chain or in a little picture or have pictures of that happen? That's a bizarre thing to do when you put it in perspective. I've never understood it, but that was the allegory they were going with.
Yeah.
With Ben, they wanted to make sure Ben looked like the way that Mick perceived him was. He could tell he was their comfort space. They always looked to him when something was happening, so he wanted to show he's not their savior. He'll be crucified like
all the fucking rest of them.
And it's watching that second when he realizes, when he comes to. And he realizes he's got like wire around his biceps. He's got these great big like spikes through his wrists. And he's just sort of stood there and, you know, he's trying to take it in and he's like, this is the scene in the cave that you were talking about earlier.
Right. That was it. Because when he eventually gets himself in a position where he can look about, he sees all of the rest of Mick's handiwork.
Yeah.
And there's a fucking lot of it too.
Yeah, Mick's apparently there was another deleted scene which doesn't exist. I don't know if it's on a bonus cut or anything like that, but when Liz was looking for the keys, apparently she drops them down a grate and she goes through into the grate to try and find the keys, and it's like a big drainage area, and when she gets down in there she then finds that like hundreds of bodies in there, but they cut that scene for some reason. They probably thought maybe it.
Well, maybe because Ben's reveal is quite like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't get out of here, you are one of these people.
Yeah.
You are one of the forgotten.
I mean, I can't imagine how much effort that must take without passing out to pull your own.
I'm dead the minute he puts them in there. Like, I'm not surviving that.
I mean, it's a hell of a. I mean, they always say, don't they? If you've been stabbed by something, never take it out until you're at the hospital. Like that is a public service announcement, people. If you have been impaled by anything at any point, don't do what dumb people do in the movies and pull it out. It will spurt. You will die of blood loss.
It does actually happen.
And let's not have that happen.
I have actually stood on a sword.
Oh.
And it was, so you know the swords that it's a sword and then it has like two little daggery things at the side.
What like Thundercats, like the Sword of Omen?
Yeah, picture Thundercats. Yeah. But fucking an actual metal. Yeah, I don't know. what was I doing? I was it was propped up against a wall, and I went to go and I either went to go and open a window or something like that, and I ended up stabbing my big toe with the end of one of the little things at the side,
Yeah.
and I actually heard the noise as it came out.
Oh,
That noise has stayed with me. That was nearly 25 years ago, and
wow.
that noise has stayed with me until like right now. And it does when I moved my toe, it just went. It was
Yeah.
like Quentin Tarantino was like movie was happening at my feet.
That is like it was the one thing that I was always taught, never pull it out, just leave it in and let someone else deal with it at the hospital. You know, it's like one of those things. So but
That, I'm dying of sheer shock. Like
I was gonna say, in his situation, I understand he didn't have a choice, because it was either pull his arms off, stay there and die, or get his arms off and leave. And how he did it without passing out, I don't know, because obviously I know everybody has different pain thresholds, but to be able to, I mean, this spike must have been,
oh, it was long.
I mean, that is, no, thank
It
you.
it came out quite a bit.
Yeah, it was like about an extra sort of that, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
His wrist. So you see him pull it out on both sides and just sort of slide to the floor.
All the audio is going to have heard throughout this whole episode is me going.
Yeah, it says for audio listeners, it's somewhere around about, I'd say, an extra 3 inches sticking out at least.
At least,
At
like,
least
you
like,
can see it.
Yeah, it's very, very covered in blood, so you know that it was driven through from behind rather than from in front. So
yeah.
Anyway,
he was literally impaled on it.
Yeah, he was. He makes his way off of it, which I give him his props for, because Christ Almighty, I would have died. And then he doesn't waste any time. He doesn't
No.
sit pity. He doesn't start screaming like uncontrollably. You see him take stock. He's like, look around. Where am I? What am I doing? And then it's when he realizes he's got to run, and he runs out. But then when he gets out and he looks down, and you see this moment where he realizes his hands aren't working very well. Like, he's realizing what he just did, and it's like it's only for like about 10 seconds, but you see him just stand there trying to take stock, and he's shaking and he's staring at his wrists, and then all of a sudden he realizes, where are the girls?
Oh,
what the hell happened? And he's at the campsite bit where they're all sat out the front, isn't it? And that's where he comes out to, if I'm right. The car's been set on fire by Liz for a distraction earlier on. Then there's the cooler, and there's all sorts of stuff strewn about all over the place. And he just takes one look around, and then he just decides to go, doesn't he?
Fucking pegs it with no shoes on. This actually hurt my feet more than Christie's fucking runathon. I felt, but it's only because I felt it, because I could see he was feeling it. He ran with like like it was such a, it wasn't a weird run, it was very realistic of the fact that he's running on dirt and stones and all sorts. And then he passes out through dehydration, and he's found by 2 other backpackers
in a camper van, which is the nod to the 2 people that lost the guy, that the secondary guy in the story that I told you about.
Yeah,
that's a nod to them, because they had the camper van. It was orange, same camper van, and it was a little couple, and they picked him up. And basically, it was a nod to say, look, we haven't forgotten about you too. We know,
we haven't forgot about the victims here.
Yeah,
like, for all we've just told a story that's very reminiscent of real life, we don't forget that we haven't forgot the victims.
Yeah, so I think that was a tasteful nod, because it wasn't like they showed the death of that guy and then the abuse of the woman. It was like they pulled up, they helped Ben, they got Ben into their camper, they got Ben to a hospital. Ben gets medevaced out, and then you see the last bit, don't you, where Ben's suddenly on trial.
Yeah, so the end credit, so the movie ends with a series of credits coming up saying that Liz and Christy were never found. He was in police custody for like 4 months until his name was eventually cleared. He is now living in somewhere in Australia. And then you get the greatest shot of the whole film. Mick walking into the sunset,
Yep.
rifle strapped to his back. Adios, pan.
Yeah. I'm still here. You ain't got rid of
Yeah.
me.
I like that touch because I was like, okay, what's Mick gonna do next? Because in this, for all this is quite intense. Like, I've nearly had a complete and utter meltdown several times while we've been talking about it. But in the grand scheme of horror, is it really that intense? Could we have really gone further with this?
Yes, I do believe they could have gone a lot further. I mean, if you're looking into torture porn, which it was touched upon at one point, they said this film was possibly, it could have been the equivalent to torture porn, but they had to highly edit to get it down to be able to show it in cinema. So they had to take a lot of the gore out of it. Plus, Saw was sort of in its heyday in 2005. So they didn't want to take it too far in the respects of gore for gore's sake. They wanted to keep it because it was a loosely based on. They wanted to make sure they weren't overly disrespectful because they had mentioned in one way or another or alluded to the murders. There's a line of distastefulness that they could have chosen to do, which they didn't. And for that, I'm thankful.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where those stories are now laid to rest. This is where you see Mick on his journey now.
Right. That's good to know because, and you are right, there could be a level of distasteful that they could have gone down and a line that they could have crossed.
Yeah.
And I think that would have changed the whole entire tone of the movie. When you mentioned there about the backpackers van being used, that is such a not a lovely nod, but an acknowledgement that we don't take this lightly.
Yeah.
What I did get a few facts down about this movie. The composer, Francesco Zittaz, don't even know if I'm saying that right, based parts of the score, so hard to say as a Geordie, I'm not a Geordie, sorry, so hard to say as a Macam, of the funeral march.
Yeah, I did read that. I mean, it's quite interesting to think, and I hadn't actually paid attention to the fact there was a score. I don't remember any music.
No, me neither.
Probably a good thing. I mean, that's when their job has been done because it's built the anticipation. It's mixed up in there somewhere, so your brain just absorbs.
My brain chemistry is just in one with this movie.
Yeah.
The score, it's not something that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
I've actually seen the person. No, I haven't seen the person, but I have seen the grave of the person who created the actual funeral march. Chopin.
Yes.
Yeah. Which even played at his own funeral. How fucking badass is that? And John Jarrett, Mick himself, was very thespian and method on this movie because he stayed in character the whole fucking time.
Yeah. The thing about John as well, that when he went for the audition for this film, he was now people only knew him as like Alan Titmarsh. Like he was the Australian equivalent of he hosted a gardening show in Australia on daytime TV. Obviously he'd done loads of stuff like that. He was a face. He was always on soaps and stuff like that. He actually even appeared on a couple of episodes of Inspector Morse over here and stuff like that. So,
well, my mother will know him.
He's done his pounds, he's done his dues and paid his dues. But yeah, he was on a gardening TV show, and no one expected Mick to come out of John. They just, it was such a far removed thing because John was like your Alan Tit. Can you imagine Alan Titmarsh playing Mick Taylor? No,
I don't want to either.
That's the thing. It's like I'm not saying I'm not saying he wasn't able to portray it, but it was like a hell of a juxtaposition between the two.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I know that when they did the promo for this movie, they didn't just release a trailer. We have a trailer now because that was for the international release, but for the domestic release, they actually did something very similar to what the Blair Witch did. They did little mockumentaries of Mick and the backpackers, and they put them all online. They released them small little clips online, like to get like a buzz, to make it feel like it was a real news story, and like people were going online. See, it's very, very clever. To me, that's very clever.
It is really clever. That is one thing that I thought was not missing, but I would have liked to have seen the use of it more.
Yeah.
You know, I love handheld footage. Horror is some of my favorite genre of horror. I wish they used the video camera more.
That's the thing. They were going to use a DV8 camera, you know, the mini DVs at one point, because they wanted it was all filmed on smaller handheld cameras. But they were more pro, and they were geared up for the version of HD they had in 2005. But they wanted to film on those on the DV cams. But the movie that had just done it, and I don't know whether it came out before or after, I want to say before, was 28 Days Later.
Oh yes,
with Cillian Murphy in it. Now that was all shot on DV cam, so it was about the same time. So they were trying to utilize that, but they didn't want to be in the same vein. Like, they didn't want to be held like, oh well, they've used it, so you've used it. We know what you did. So they thought, right, no, we won't. We'll leave that be. But it was going to be on those tiny little, you know, the tiny little ones with the flip out screens.
So, I don't know. It's just I don't want to say that I wanted to see the whole movie in it, but just the reveal at the end with a cave. I don't know if it would have been more effective on the small camera, but that's just me and how much I love found footage horror. But I gotta admit, I thoroughly enjoyed this. It took a while for it to sink in. I didn't instantly go, oh, this was fucking fantastic and great. I had to hash it out before I could feel that way. But it's enough for me to say, Anne, can we watch the other ones in the TV show? And he's like, yeah, give it a few weeks, get this one out of your head, and then we'll start again. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do this.
And that is where you see Mick coming to his own. If you take away you can't take away this movie is exposition. In the grand scheme of things, when you're looking at the whole franchise, this is the movie that sets everything up. This is the exposition. This is where you find out who Mick is. This is where you find out, you know, you get to grips with Mick as a character. You understand that his job has always been extermination, and he believes that job is universal, regardless of
is there any reason given as to why Mick does what he does?
I can't recall off the top of my head. I think it's one of those things where he sees it as a job. He sees it as a duty. He sees it as eradicating vermin or pests, and he hates it when they get away. He makes it his mission to target it, but there's I'm sure there'll be more of it, and I'm not sure if it's in one of the TV shows or not, because it's been a while, because they came out a while ago. But I don't think you get much more about Mick, other than the nuggets he lets out over the next couple of movies. But from the two TVs there, I think it's 2 seasons of the TV series, and I'm not sure if the third movie's out yet, but I know at one point they were working on it.
I saw a poster for it, but the poster was Mick and the Sunset.
Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure I know at one point they were in talks to have it done, and I didn't know whether it had actually got done or not. I don't think it has, but there was 2 seasons of the TV show that happened instead, whether it was instead of or
I got you.
But it's an awful thing to say, because there was a big controversy with John as an actor that happened after the first season of the TV show came out, I think. So we're talking maybe back 2017, 2018, around there. There was a lady that came forward and claimed there was historic SA with John. And John vehemently, he 100% denied it, said he didn't even know the woman, blah blah blah. So we're now into that position where it's he said, she said. No one's blaming there's no victim blaming or anything in this situation.
Yeah,
But
no.
this is what happened, and in the end, he won the case. He literally, his acting career stalled for like 2 years,
Right.
because he was given everything he had to fight in this, because he said he'd never met the woman. The whole thing was fabricated, and it came out in the end that it was fabricated and the
Oh
woman
my
had made it all
gosh.
up, and that, yeah, unfortunately this poor man had to go through all that. So there's layers and layers and layers of stuff that, as an actor, he's having to go through, as well as doing the job that he loves to do. But that was a really sad time for him. I think it was a hard time for him and his family. I remember when the story broke, because I followed him for years, and he was just like, he even put out, like, within hours of it going out, he put out a big story saying, honest to God, he said, I will not, this is not me. I am
Yeah.
not, and the first thing he did was go to his own defense. And I think you have too many people now, like, that are guarded by NDAs
Yeah.
and
Gag orders and such.
managers that won't let them have their own say. But I love the fact that when you look at it in reflection, when you know that unfortunately
Yeah.
this lady felt the need to do what she did, um, the fact that he took it off the back straight away. He's like, I'm not having this. This is not right. And on reflection, you look at it and you're thinking, no, good for him. He did the right thing, because
Yeah.
he's been
Yeah.
proved innocent. So then his career took back off, and he got the second season,
I'm
I think.
so pleased for him, because there's certain people out there, one in particular, I'm not going to even say his name, because I'm so disappointed, is just hidden away. It's
Yeah.
been brushed under the carpet. Been some very serious allegations made about this person.
Is
Meh.
it the New Zealand trip?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's going to stay
Um,
cryptic, by the way. I'm not
yeah.
explaining that one.
Not a chance. Yeah. It's just disappointing that he I'm glad he did. I'm glad
Yeah.
he fought for it,
Yeah.
because me and Aunt had this conversation the other day of the damage,
Yeah.
the
The
fucking
damage.
damage that it does. For women to do this kind of thing, men to do this kind of thing. Like, I'm not just aiming at one gender, but oh, such damage.
Yeah.
Please stop.
The
I'm
minute
really
you
pleased that it turned around for him, though.
Yeah, don't whisper something if you cannot pull out the receipts. You cannot back up your. I can't. I shouldn't say things like this, because I know it's very, very personal to that person.
Yeah.
Come forward if you're telling the truth. Please, 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 please do that. Come forward if you're telling the truth. But for whatever reason you feel the need to fabricate a story about someone, please think twice, because that is their life.
These are people.
They are just like you and me.
Yeah.
And what effect is it going to have on your life?
Yeah.
Yes, you might get some attention, but when it comes out, and it always will come out.
It does. It does. You
It
can't. Yeah.
always
You
will.
do not get away with that shit. It might be drawn out. You could create a lot of fucking damage in the whirlwind you've caused, but the truth will always come out.
And you can't put it back in the box. It's done. That
No.
your name will be there for ever after you die.
Tarnished.
And
Oh,
you
yeah.
want that legacy. You don't. So
No. The internet is there forever, people.
yes.
Can't fucking hide from it.
Ooh.
I have nothing more on Wolf's Creek. I will say, though, brilliant choice. It's
Yeah.
given me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It's visually something different than what I wouldn't normally go out my way to watch something like this.
Yeah.
So I have thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Good choice.
Thanks. Yeah,
You're
it's one of those movies that I think every now and again you come across, like, movies that just fall into your lap for some reason, and you don't know how it got there, or you don't remember the first time you saw it because it wasn't in the cinema, but you know that you've seen it, and you're like,
It's like me with Broken Lizards Club Dread. I don't know how I got into it. I hadn't even seen Super Troopers at that point, but I still fucking love that film. I will cover that film one day. We will do Broken Lizards Club Dread. And I'll bore you with it as well. I'm
yes.
fucking hate that film.
But the thing is, now you will know the legacy of Mick. You know Mick's character. You get to love Mick when you see him in the other, the more, because his banter and his charm and his charisma.
He's charming motherfucker. I can understand now, looking back at last week's episode when you were like, we're going to be introduced to Mick.
There's something about him, and it's not
and
it's not
weird.
like a sexual thing. It's not like like a oh, I really fancy him kind of thing. It's like he has a magnetism about him where you want to be in his presence, but at the same time, you don't want to be anywhere near him.
Yeah. It's so conflicting because I want to be your friend, but I don't want to be your friend because I don't want to end up like what they did.
No, I'm going to stay well over there, away from. Yeah. No, because you've got a gun. No, so I'm going to be in another state, and I'll ring you.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Me and you are never ended up in the Outback.
No, let's be honest. No, Dan doesn't go to the Outback, so
I don't even go to the Outback malls. Malls? Can't even talk. That joke was going to be way funnier. It was way funnier in my head. That did not work.
Australia's lovely, and one day I will get to go there, but
I feel like I should. I mean, like I say, I do have family over there. It would be nice to see my younger cousin because I generally don't know when I'll get to see him again. I've got so much family. My cousin actually, when she was very young, had her hips replaced. Both of her hips replaced. She was about 9-year-old. Both of them done. And she went to Australia for 6 months to recuperate.
As you do.
Must be fucking nice. Next week, we're going back to double features. I don't even know how to introduce this one. It's frightful.
Yes.
It's nightful.
Oh, there she goes.
It's Fright Night.
Ooh.
That's quite good. Because of the fact of the whole TV hosty kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're doing the original and the remake. Honestly, I love them both for very different reasons. I watched the remake before I watched the original, and I can dare say, bravo. Good remake.
Yeah, David Tennant.
Oh, Tennant.
Colin Farrell, and Anton Yelchin. Oh, Victor.
Can it go an episode? I thought it was going to happen. Can't go an episode without some cat scaring the shit out of us. Look, he's like right here. Yeah, we're doing Fright Night, original and remake. It's going to be incredibly interesting, incredibly fun because it's such a fun movie. And that's next week. And you can find us on YouTube every Monday at 8 o'clock. You can come and see our faces. But if you don't want to see our faces, the audio for this episode and all the other episodes for Nerdy Up North are out on a Tuesday. And why is that? Because I do them then. I put them up. So yeah, all audio's up on a Tuesday. You can find all the links for Bleeding Marvelous, Nerdy Up North, Monsters Up North. Where, Dan? They're down there. You got some very pretty nails. And please remember on the YouTube to like, share, and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. That went better than any outro I've done for such a long time. I remembered everything. The English came out as it should. Well done, me. Also, when you come back next week, you might be looking at, actually, no, you not might be. You will be looking at the Nerdy Up North quiz champ for Graham's second quiz. The mug has the Monsters logo with Nerdy Up North because he didn't want to use Monsters Up North, which is fine. It's fine. It is what it is. But that mug is coming home with me.
Yeah, because why, Sammy? What is it on Saturday?
Don't know, Dan. What is it on Saturday?
In the future past.
It's already happened.
Yeah, but it hasn't. But it has.
But it hasn't. Yeah, that's true. It's my birthday.
Yay!
And isn't my body telling me that? Once again,
It's for being a geriatric.
my fucking hip is hurting again. It happened this time last year. It was like a reminder, like, you're coming into your 40s, have some hip pain.
Yeah,
Now
here's
it's
some
like,
rheumatism for you. You'll enjoy that. Happy birthday.
it did it this time last year, and it's doing it again this year. Yeah, it's my birthday. So I am walking out of that quiz with that cup on my birthday. I'm just putting it out there. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, so I'm not saying you should let her win on her birthday, but you should really let her win on her birthday.
Well, no, I'm coming in. I'm actually coming in with a strong team. So I've got me, I've got Anth, I've got my friend Steph, I've got her partner who knows Trek. So if he throws any Trek in there, I've got a Trekkie with us. I've got my friend Emma who contributes in her own way. Hope to God she doesn't listen to this episode. We're gonna win. We're gonna win. Yeah. So tune in next week to see if I actually did win that mug. If there is nothing else left to say goodbye, Dan.
Bye, Dan.
Stay spooky, everyone. Bye.